Storytelling is great for connecting with your audience, for engaging your audience. But if you make any of these 5 mistakes, your story is going to fall flat. My name's Kyle Murter. I help people speak with more confidence and impact, and I've actually won awards for storytelling in presentations before. And what I'd like to do is share with you the 5 common mistakes I see most people making when telling stories. Before we get into them, do subscribe to this channel because every week I'm bringing out new videos which will help you with your public speaking. Now, the first mistake most people make is a big one. Lack of conflict. Many people say that conflict is the beating heart of a story. And that's because without having any conflict, your story is quite boring. Here's an example of a story without conflict. Yesterday I had a craving for a chocolate bar. So I went to the shop and saw a dairy milk on the shelf, a delicious looking dairy milk. I picked it up, paid for it, and then ate it. I'm sure you would agree that was quite boring because nothing went wrong. Now I'm going to show you an example, the same example actually, but with conflict added to it. Yesterday I had a craving for a chocolate bar. So I went to the shop and saw a delicious looking dairy milk on the shelf. It was the last one left. I went to go and get it and some kid took it from me. What a little... Now that is much more engaging because now you're wondering if I got into a fight with the kid, if I ever got a chocolate bar, what I did next. You're wondering all of these questions, and that's what conflict does. It creates a question in your audience's mind. How did they overcome that challenge? How did they get past or around that obstacle? This is why you need to have conflict in your story. Mistake number 2, poor imagery. Sometimes people fail to create a scene in their story. Here's an example. On the 17th of April, 2024, I made a life-changing decision. I decided to give up chocolate bars. I promise that'll be the last chocolate bar reference in this video. Maybe. But the bigger issue is that I can't visualize this individual making that life-changing decision. I can't see it because it's happening nowhere. He has not described the scene. It would be much better if he said, on the 17th of April, 2024, I was sitting at my dining table with my head in my hands, with tears rolling down my face. I was about to make a life-changing decision. I was about to stop watching Desperate Housewives. Now all he did was say that he was sitting at a table with his head in his hands and tears rolling down his face. But that created imagery in your mind. Now you were able to imagine the scene where he made this life-changing decision. And this is something you can do too in your own stories. Never tell a story in a vacuum. Always say where you were, what was going on, describe the scene, use the senses even. Even things like smell and touch are very powerful for bringing your audience into that scene with you. Mistake number 3, jumping around. So often I see people having huge gaps in their story because they jump from one situation to a completely different situation without providing any background of how they got there. For example, someone might say, I have always struggled with low self-esteem. And then literally in the next sentence they'll say, but now I feel really confident in myself. What? How did you get there? We need to hear how this individual went from having low self-esteem to being confident. What was the things that they did in between? What were the different changes that they made in their life to get to that more self-confident place? And this is something I see all the time and you perhaps might be doing. You might be jumping to different parts of your story without explaining how you got there. Always look to fill in the gaps, and one of the best ways you could do this is actually ask a friend to watch your story, to hear your story, and then ask them, was there any unanswered questions? Was there any gaps or jumps in my story? Because often we're too close to our own story to see what the gaps might be, but a friend or a colleague or even a coach can point out those gaps to you and make sure that you fill in the information so that you don't lose the audience, or even worse, make them skeptical. Mistake number 4, lack of emotion. Tell me in the comments, who do you connect more with? This guy? 3 years ago I lost my job. Or this guy? 3 years ago I lost my job and I felt ashamed. Because work has always been a huge part of my identity, and in many ways losing that job made me feel like I lost part of myself. And obviously when you are unemployed, there's a lot of stresses in terms of how am I going to look after my family, how am I going to pay the bills, what am I going to do next. You just kind of feel lost and lacking in purpose. I'm going to take a guess and say the second guy, because he expressed his emotions. And when he was talking about things like how he was going to pay the bills, how he was going to look after his family, perhaps you were able to connect more with that. You could see yourself feeling that same stress or same worries if you were in that situation. And this is why you have to express emotions. Because when we open up and share how something made us feel to the audience, it allows us to connect with them. They can begin to see themselves in our story. And that should be our goal at the end of the day. So whether the emotion is negative or positive, express it in your stories. You'll connect so much more with your audience. Mistake number 5, no message for the audience. It's great to tell a story, but if there's no point to your story, you probably just wasted everybody's time. And Les Brown summed this up really well. He said, never make a point without telling a story, and never tell a story without making a point. Your story should enrich the life of your audience. And the way you do that is by deciding what the key message is, what the key lesson from your story is, and then share that with the audience and encourage them to take action on that lesson. And if you want some more pointers on how to find that message, because I know it can be difficult, check out this video I made on how to be more clear and concise with your presentations. It will show you exactly how to locate that message and share it through a story as well.